off my chest or what I just seen on Love and Marriage Huntsville reunion. Part what? Pardon me, part one. But since I was mistaken, I'ma just hit the bullet points on what I remember. First thing I recall about the reunion that stuck out to me, everybody kind of looked nice. I don't think I particularly care for Trisha's dress. I liked the construct of Destiny's dress. I liked Kimmy's dress. I liked everybody's dress. Now, I did think what stuck out to me was when all the men came on the stage. Martell was late picking up his suit at the mall, but when he finally arrived, he told Carlos, like, you got the crown, you got it. And then when Chris got on stage, he was like, nah, it's mine. And then Carlos was like, who really got it? And so going forward, let's get into it. What stuck out to me. Conversation around infidelity. There was a conversation where it was posed to Kimmy from Carlos. If there were infidelity in her marriage, would she would stay and work it out, or would she leave? And Kimmy essentially said that was her hard line go. But this is the thing with Kimmy that I don't understand, because in the previous episode, she said or alluded to that there would be some negotiations in herself because she's seen how it looked in previous couples, relationships, and so on. So it feels like disingenuous one way or the other. It's one way you lying or not. But anywho, from that conversation, Maurice feels all surprised and gobsmacked by this information that Kimmy will not stay if he cheats. And Carlos asks, well, what are you feeling? Why is this settling with you? And thought this was an admission of him just saying that he was a cheater himself. But many words, he was like, it just makes me realize she's not as in deep in this marriage as I am, which I was waiting for Carlos to immediately ask, so will you stay when she cheats or if she cheats? And we later down the line hears his perspective of if Kimmy does mess around or mess up. He doesn't say plainly cheat, but mess up. He would ask himself questions like, how did I contribute it, or what did I do wrong, or something to that effect. And Kimmy, I felt like, was just sitting there looking as if she don't know the manipulation tactic that is going on in front of her. He's saying what he wants her to do if and when it comes out he cheated. But he's acting as if it's something that they have to go to counseling about, that she's not going to stay if he cheats, meaning that you got to be prepared for him to cheat at any time. And I don't think that's conducive to a stable nervous system. But anywho, going forward, what is another major point that I remember in this reunion? Oh, Trisha and Ken. Not as interesting as they make it out to be, but essentially Ken then put his foot down and said she was the best thing, and like she made his life better. And that's all I got from that. Like, all that other stuff is just hee haw for the screen. What really matters in this whole conversation about Love and Marriage Huntsville reunion is the Tisha and Destiny conversation. Now, they do the junket of videos concerning how every instance where Tisha felt like Destiny betrayed her on camera. And every instance, it wasn't given what Tisha had described her betrayal to be. Because to Destiny's point, many instances she's advocating for Tisha in those scenes. So it's like, girl, you itching for a problem, and we're not seeing what's there. Well, at least I'm not seeing. I'm not gonna say we. I'm gonna say I'm not seeing what's the there. And so after this, they let Tisha talk and run on about how Destiny should have been there and advocating for her in certain rooms in a way. I'm not trying to hear it because the standard she is holding for Destiny, she is not holding for herself, one, and she is not holding for her husband, but she is getting that from Kimmy. The standard she is holding Destiny to is the standard she is the behaviors that Kimmy has been portraying this whole season concerning Tisha, because Tisha has advocacy and fallacy, and because Kimmy is willing to go along with the bullshit, it looks like she's advocating for dumb. But anyway, going forth, they're asking Destiny, like, what her perspective is on the whole thing and why you think this is, what's the deeper problem. And essentially, what I got from that is Destiny said that Tisha told her at some event that Kimmy held, barbecue or something for Jalen, that if it's either divorce her husband or fight with Destiny. Now Carlos was like, "What you think that mean?" And Destiny like went off to another thing about like, I don't know, like this is, I'm tired of being a whipping post for everybody, and they want to get their row off for their storyline. It seemed like she was getting her vibe to me. Carlos essentially said it was a storyline ploy. But I feel like there have been instances throughout the seasons that Destiny had been on this show that people have utilized her to create contention with her out of the blue. Now, or at least not out of the blue, but not given reason to the contention they have with her. They feel like they're above it, or what they explain makes no freaking sense. So if I'm her, I would feel like I'm on a back foot every time that I'm in community with these people on this show. But anyway, oh, she explains all of that. It says, like, she's apologized. She's tired of apologizing. She's done all she can do. And she's not going to be the only one trying to make the relationship work, because she never said anything bad about Tisha. She was advocating for Tisha. She put herself in between Martell and him trying to advance towards her, while Marceau sat behind Tisha as Tisha act like a quasi shield, if you will. And in other instances, she was telling Martell to tell her, well, or give her an apology. So herein lies the inconsistency in this narrative of this loyalty thing. So with that being said, they pose it back to Tisha on some like, girl, it's not that, well, this is Carlos. Essentially, his sentiment is it's not that big of a deal. Like, don't you think that, y'all can get to some point to get over it? And he's like, no, because she has done, and it feels like Tisha just want a problem. And if I'm Destiny, because for her to go and tell the backstory of how she not that she told the story, Carlos told the story of how Tisha advocated for her in the background, and coming to find out all that advocacy was for naught, because it's not like she was kicked off the show. It's she left the show and she could come back at any time, per Carlos saying it. So even as he's giving this anecdote of Tisha's advocacy, it's like, was it advocacy though? I mean, cool, you like her or whatever is what you translated to him. But, and then for her to go, like, I knew the financial situation of it and whoop de whoop and all of that. Like, does that mean she owes you her every moment she's in with others who speak about you? No, she's not being aggressive in the moments with people who you've had long standing beef with. She's communicating with them. No, she's not being extra demonstrative with them, but she is saying, well, see it from this side, see it from her side, or, well, don't you think you should apologize, or, well, maybe you should talk. This has been her MO consistently. And to her point, they said that they put it to, oh, somebody here. Shout out to you. The twin gang. Shout out to you soon here. So anywho, where was I at? Yeah, so Destiny's advocating for herself in that instance. And so Carlos comes back to ask Kimmy, like, girl, what you see the problem is, in so many words. And what I got from Kimmy whole spiel is she riding for the Scott gang all the way down. She has betrayed her logic ever since the fullback season, the halfback season, the lineback season, whatever these football position seasons of which her man was included or being tied to some girl. She has changed her advocacy position from truth to Scott's claim. And for that reason, she's betraying herself in her logic. So she's trying to make it seem like it's a same weight in this problem that Tisha has and Destiny has, when Destiny is outright saying, will somebody explain the problem to me? What have I done to you? Be specific. Tell me. If she is an equal participant in the problem, she would know the problem, or y'all would tell her specifically the problems so she can know what she's doing. What you all are sharing is against what actually has happened. So and she's apologizing for things she thinks she's not doing wrong, thinking she's assuaging the moment. And here you go making it an equal, well, Destiny slick at the mouth. Ain't y'all all? And I immediately thought that, like, y'all all talk smack about one another, and especially in confessionals. But whatever. So, anywho, Destiny then, no, then the Carlos asks Nell her opinion on the matter. And Nell, in so many words, said, is Destiny snipped at the mouth? Yes. And before Nell could say her next piece, Destiny gets up to advocate for herself, like, girl, y'all all slick at the mouth. And true enough. But Nell was like, and here's my thing with Destiny interrupting. I didn't necessarily feel any harm in that, because whoever sticks up for Destiny in the public setting? Nobody. Like, keep sweat. Like, stop playing. Like, she had every right to call out the logic when nobody else will, especially when the person we have seen for many seasons and appreciate her logic is now being illogical just to railroad her in this instance. But anyhow. So Nell then says, that's what I was going to say. Like, are we all slick at the mouth? Yes. So then Nell continues on to some degree to say, like, Destiny put herself in the middle because she's both our friends and she wants us to get it together, or whatever she said to that effect. And Destiny then advocates for herself and goes, no, I wasn't putting myself in the middle. I was pulled in the middle. And then somebody was saying to some effect, like, no, you put yourself in the middle. And Destiny was like, no, once again, y'all beef predates me, because y'all had some little conversation at some event that was even before me. And everybody admitted to it. Nell included, Tisha included. But in that, Tisha was trying to downplay the contention they were having at that event that even would be considered beef going forward. And Nell was like, no, we had beef. We had problems going forward, essentially. And so Tisha was like, no, I thought we was cool after that. We handled that conversation and it was left there. And Nell was like, no, it wasn't left there. The thing about it is, you two get together, Kimmy inserts herself and in the middle of stuff, and then once y'all say it's over, it's supposed to be over and all of that stuff. And so Kimmy essentially is trying to play the middleman and, like, not play the middleman. Here's where it's disingenuous now when Kimmy plays the mediator, because she's always advocating for the Scott's clan after the fullback season or the linebacker season. And because of that, she's abdicated the middle. And she's abdicated her credibility in logic standing for us to take her seriously in her trying to play as if she is in good faith listening to both sides. She's only listening to both sides to distill an argument for one side. And in that, nobody takes you seriously anymore, and you doing that middle of the road temperament. And I'm not mad at that temperament, but you've lost the credibility with that temperament given the fact that you're now just an attorney for the Scots. Like, be it bad crime committed or not, you're standing up for them, whatever may come. And so now Nell is calling it out. Like, so Kimmy is like, see, let's go, like trying to, let's calm it down and do. I'm not saying it verbatim what she said, but that's the vibe of what she was giving. And Nell was like, you can stop all of that. And she was gesturing in the same way in which Kimmy was gesturing and telling her, you can stop, you not mothering us, you not our mothers, and we ain't your sons, you not sonning us, and you can stop with all of that, because we have every right to like talk for ourselves and say what we want to say, how we want to say it. And Kimmy and Nell essentially blew up into a full-blown B word off. They was calling each other B words down. And I was on Nell's side on this one, because if anybody has listened to the past content on Love and Marriage Huntsville that I've done about this season, have been overstating my disappointment in the way Kimmy have been arguing and behaving for this season. It's as if she's abandoning everything to try to everything that she stood on before. Like, we remember in previous seasons in a reunion where it was said that they were talking about Mel and Tisha was trying to deny it, and Kimmy was like, girl, we was talking about that girl, like, we can't even lie, like, you stood on business of truth back then. It didn't matter if it offended the Scots name, but why is this the new Kimmy? Why is this the new Kimmy? I don't appreciate it. And Nell holding her foot to the fire in that stance, I don't see no problem. Is Nell loud and demonstrative? Yes, but she ain't wrong. She's not wrong. And another point I forgot to make. When it was brought up about the contention at the party, Trisha even came in and interjected and said, yeah, y'all had beef at that party. Stop playing. Like, she didn't say it like that, but she was in as much giving that essence, like, don't act like y'all wasn't at that. You did. And so Nell agreed. And finally there was like an agreement on a point that Destiny was making that was a fact of the matter. Let the Scots tell it. We'd still be looking at Destiny like a liar if they don't back up the point. So, in as much, hello, Julian, what's up? Abdur, what's up to you? Say hello, good evening, how are you? I am talking about Love and Marriage Huntsville, and I'm about to hop off because I'm at the end of this reunion. But I have to say, I am disappointed in the abandonment of logic. Not that she's abandoned logic. Let me not say that. Kimmy hasn't abandoned logic. Quite the opposite. She has become a 10 percenter. She has gone from being a 5 percenter to a 10 percenter. And what I mean by that is, there is a doctrine in some quarters where people believe that 85% of any population is deaf, dumb, blind, and easily misled astray. And then of that population, 10% have knowledge but use it or misuse it to manipulate the rest or use it wickedly. And 5% use their knowledge for good and righteousness. Kimmy used to be a 5%. She's abandoned it to be a 10%er for the Scots, for the Scots honor. And what the fuck is a Scots honor when you had the honor alone? Like, what is a Scots honor, beloved? Why are you going this hard for teachers in name and say? And this is another thing nobody's calling out. Kimmy was carrying the bone back to Tisha concerning certain instances, and they didn't each address in this reunion. I wonder why they didn't address when Tisha got mad that Destiny said Tisha has Tourette friendship. Now, Kimmy, in as much admitted that she let people say certain things so there won't be trouble, so she let it slide. Thusly, I think she'll be letting Tisha slide. I think she was talking about Tisha when she said it. Everybody is not going to let it slide. They're going to call it out, and they have all the energy for the contention going forward. They're not the sister-in-law and having to sign up to the cult of Scout or Holt or whatever the fuck. I am disappointed that Kimmy has abdicated, abandoned, and dislodged her standing with her tool of logic and used it like Maurice uses his logic, like Marceau uses his logic. They used it in an effort, and not so Marceau. Sometimes Marceau is in the middle, but Kimmy is most often since the linebacker season playing the scope position, and she's using her logic like an attorney. She's using her logic like a sophist. Is sophomoric, not in the way of high school or immature, but in the way of you use the information not for right or wrong, but to paint the picture to make right or wrong whatever you want it to be. It's not what the truth is what I can make you believe the truth to be. And that's the way Kimmy coming across in the way she's utilizing her talent and her logic that we've seen her use in prior seasons. I have my hypothesis of why she's abdicated the throne of truth to be the Holt's attorney, the Scott's attorney, or whatever the attorney. I have my opinion, but I'm not going to speculate until I see another season where she prove me right. I know she going to prove me right. So I'm going to watch. I don't want pain. But that's why when she got down here and said, because she led us to believe in a previous episode, unless it was edited to make us believe that she was now more pliable to infidelity and recovery after infidelity and staying in a marriage, to now making that a hard line. She's out. Mm, girl, which I believe that episode, even if it was edited that way, I believe the messaging was the same in the last episode. I don't know why Kimmy has bought into this new character. It betrays the old character she was playing in the previous seasons. But I'm not Team Scott. I think Scots think because they are the majority, they have the leverage on how narrative going down in this reunion. I feel like this instance, towards the end of this episode, they all kind of woke up, especially after Trisha co-signed the fact that no, you had beef at that party with Nail before Destiny. Once Trisha said that, it felt like it unlocked something in the rest of them to be like, we don't have to just oblige their messaging and their tones of what the real storyline is. We can go with the truth of what we experience and commit to colluding amongst ourselves as well. But if you don't have no prior collusion and you just standing on truth, then you don't even have to have a meeting before. You could just stand on what it is. But because Kimmy has disappointed me so much, I feel like get a new cast at this point. Because the only thing that was holding on, like Marcel could stay, Tisha could stay. Maurice and Kimmy can go. If Kimmy has abdicated her character to be this inconsistent person, use of logic person, meaning she'll use it for good at one point, or she'll become a sophist in the courtroom of Scott defense in another point, then get her to going. I don't need to watch it. Get her and Maurice up off my TV because Maurice isn't entertaining to me at all. I think he is loquacious in a way that never renders any substance. And I find that he snows people with words instead of with substance. And he wants us to be like, nigga, he could go too. They could shake up the cash with them Scots, break up the monotony and the collusion between them and the ever ready back, defense that they have behind them. Not so Marcel. Marcel don't even come to his own wife defense. Hence why Destiny said, girl, don't hold me to no standards you ain't holding your husband to. And with that being said, I have been down here for far too long, but I needed to put that on the record because I feel like Kimmy is playing in all of our faces. I feel like Kimmy and Tisha have been playing in our face ever since the linebacker season. They have agreed we are not going against each other for nobody. And for hella high water, no matter how dumb Tisha look, I'm gonna ride or die for you is what Kimmy said. And it looks stupid. And I hate it. I hate it. I hate this way you come to. And to the ethos, tell the future I said so. And thanks for listening if you did.